Let's discuss raw material costings. Our RM costings refer to recipe costings. We can set these costings up and maintain them under costings in Pilot Admin. Let's open up our RM costings window. Before we start, let's discuss what we see here. Our master file code can be seen here. Master file item name, category, and current raw material costing. We can quick search specific items by typing the name of the item here, then clicking on it to select. Once selected, we can view the recipe breakdown on the right-hand side window here. It's important to note that these costings are specifically recipe related. We won't see any costings for individual order items like the 200ml Coke Zero seen here. If we are to cost menu items, we will need to do so in our PLU costings. Let's search for a recipe we can cost. Another point to note is our production module function. Many stores produce and create their own stock in store. For example, you may produce your own sauces. These stores choose to manage production through our production module. In this module, you would set up all recipe items with their individual ingredients and costings. As a result, the raw material costing for that recipe would then be redundant since it is already costed and managed in production. If you consistently use production as a daily control method, and since our raw material usage report also includes data from our production manager, you would then not need to cost recipes in both production and RM costings. However, this may not be the case for your store. You may not use production at all, and thus we would strongly recommend there be a raw material costing in place for all recipe items. When setting up the RM costing for a recipe, ensure you cost the recipe according to the unit recorded in the master. For example, if our unit for our homemade tomato sauce is liter, we need to cost our recipe to produce 1 liter's worth of sauce. Otherwise, we will have discrepancies when costing our PLU costings after setting up our RM costings. To add ingredients, click on Add, then search and add the needed items. All master file items, including hidden items, will reflect for you to add. Make sure you add the correct masters with the correct quantities. You can see the item name, quantity to add, unit cost per ingredient, and unit of measure here. The total cost per unit added will be seen here. If an incorrect item has been added, select it and click on Delete to delete. Once done, simply select the next recipe to add and the system will save the recipe. To update costings after you've made changes to the RM costings, select Cost. You can print a report to reflect only costed items or to print out all items. Lastly, take note that if you do use production and you have recipes set up in both production and RM costings, if you produce a recipe with ingredient totals different to the RM costing recipe seen here, the system will prompt you with a message box asking if you would like to update the RM costings to match the changes made to the recipe in production. You can then choose to update and say yes, or stick with the original recipe and refrain from updating. Once done, select Exit and the system will return to our main Pilot Admin screen. Let's open up our PLU costings before closing off this tutorial. Now, since our recipe is in place, we can continue to cost our PLU item and add the necessary recipe quantity to the PLU file instead of adding every single ingredient needed to create that recipe in the first place. If you would like to learn more about recipe creation and costings in our production module, please head on over to our production module tutorials. You can view videos for setup, usage, and buffet setup where applicable. For more administration-related training, please check out our admin playlist and subscribe so you are up to date on any new changes or features added to your Prime POS solution.